man. Legacy Lounge. Sometimes people want to talk.
We have an incredible guest here.
What's up, brother?
The definition of the Legacy Lounge is the stuff that he's putting together. He's a great community leader. His story is amazing.
Episode 11, Kim Squaglia.
Hi guys.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Super excited.
Man, I'm really excited for many reasons. I feel it'd be good to kick it off by saying how I first heard your name, and we were talking before the podcast kicked off about who owns this building. Shout out to Sam Allen and Micah Baginski, great friends of mine. But when they joined my brokerage, I don't know, 7-8 years ago at Keller Williams, I forget how your name came about, but Micah was speaking very highly of you. And what he said was, Kim Squaglia is a badass realtor and an incredible artist.
Aww,
so
thanks, Micah.
That's how I found out about you. Obviously, we're going to just talk today, keep it casual, and hear a lot of your story. I got blessed on Christmas with an original piece of yours, which I
saw that and I was super jealous.
Completely
I love it.
Unexpected.
Do you know that I put that piece up for 1 minute and Kendra had gotten
Are you serious?
Man.
1 minute?
Kendra's the best.
Yes. So I was super honored.
Man, art's a big deal for me. I have, we met up when I had an office space in downtown about 3-4 years ago, and you were nice enough to help me purchase a print from yours. But obviously, prints are great, but originals are like...
I'm glad you can see the difference because you have both now.
Yes.
So.
Love it.
So let's just kick off there. So what I want to hear, because I've never heard the lineage story. So you're from Sacramento. I want you to walk us through just where you're from and at what point in your life did you discover art and what did that look like?
So I grew up in River Park. I went to St. Mary's School for elementary school till 7th grade. And my dad is an incredible artist. He does like charcoal, or used to. I always buy him art supplies, trying to get him to do it again. But he would do he's a hunter, so he'd do like ducks and stuff like that. And when I was a kid, I used to find all of his drawings, and he did tons of naked ladies. So he'd always get like the Playboy centerfold and and do these incredible realistic charcoal drawings. So my dad, I was always interested in it from when I was little because of my dad. And my mom was an interior designer, so she kind of just has that, design knack. And in the 70s was like designing stuff in San Francisco. So I think it's just ingrained, the art
both
thing.
sides.
And just always was, on the committees to like make the signs for the dances and cover the stars in foil and all that stuff that you do. So I've just always been interested. And then in high school, I was in, at that time, we lived in Rosemont, and I believe my school was Hiram Johnson was where I was supposed to go, but Sac High had the Visual and Performing Arts program.
Yeah.
So VPAC is what it was called. So I got to go to that school, and it really enriched. Like you could do like 3 periods of art, and so that's kind of where it started.
So you were living in River Park. So the closest school that you were supposed to go to was Hiram Johnson?
No, so I went to St. Mary's for elementary school, and then my family moved out to Rosemont, and Hiram Johnson was our school. I don't think Rosemont High was there yet.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and all my friends were going to SAC too.
Yeah.
So you're a dragon.
I'm a dragon.
Sporting the
Right
dragon,
down the street.
sporting the dragon colors.
Is down the
Yeah.
street.
I love it. I love it. So then, so part of that, so you're obviously, influenced a lot from your family, from your father. Did you end up going to school for art?
I did. So, out of high school, I went to Chico State and was an art major right off the bat. So I was at Chico for on and off. I'd like follow a boyfriend to Seattle for a year, then move to San Francisco for a year. So I was there for like 8 years, actually, in Chico, on and off. Or that's how long it took to get.
Of course.
So I got my Bachelor of Arts at Chico, and then, but if I wanted to go to grad school, you had to get your Bachelor of Fine Arts, which was another year. So I went back to Chico, not very reluctantly. I loved living there. It was great, and was really into music and stuff. So there was always stuff. And So from there, I went to University of Texas, San Antonio. And that was kind of a weird whim. I didn't really know much about
how did
grad
you
school.
pick that one?
I had a wonderful college professor, James Kuiper. He recently passed away. He was kind of a mentor to me. And when I was getting my BFA, he at one point gave me a D in painting, which you can't get a D in painting.
No.
And I knew I didn't deserve a D. It was kind of his way of saying, shit or get off the pot.
Wow.
So he was like, you missed this many classes. I know you're a good painter. If you want your grade changed, the studio's open to you for the summer and you can paint. So it was that summer that I was at Chico by myself in the studio painting that I started doing abstract instead of trying to do something I didn't know what I was doing. And then he changed my grade to an A. And then the next year he said, I used to work at this program. You should apply there. And I knew nothing about it. I never even visited. I applied. They gave me partial scholarship. So I went, and it turned out to be such a blessing. It was really a wonderful. You don't think of Texas as a place that is going to be really open-minded about art. I've never been anywhere in the world that is more supportive of art and artists.
Really?
The community is so. I mean, there's a lot of people with, whatever your political beliefs are, with a lot of dough there, and they are so supportive of the arts. Their museums are amazing. The patronage is just off the chain there. So going to school there, I got really spoiled because you could have a show and, people would
Attend.
they would attend. People would come to the shows. They were filled. They would buy stuff.
Really?
So that was
You
just,
never
it
would
was
guess
awesome.
when you say that place.
So that's where you went for your bachelor?
No, that
that's
was graduate.
Grad school. Okay,
My
got it.
master's degree. So yeah, and that was great. So that was just a couple of years, and just got really immersed in this wonderful art community there. So many cool people, really super diverse, and just it was just the first time that I was around such a concentration of artists. And people who would give you speak their mind too. So you'd present something at a critique, and they just grind you down to the ground. And it was so.
God.
It was good. It was
Yeah.
very. People were really honest. They wanted you to succeed, and there was this one time, because in grad school you're supposed to find the kind of art you're going to make for a long time, and. So you have your own studio, and everybody's got studios, and mine was about this big, beautiful, really spacious, beautiful studio. And we would have visiting artists come all the time. So this one guy, I can't think of his name right now. His first name is Carlos, but he was a pretty famous artist in New York at the time. And he came to my studio, and he looked around, and he was the first person to ever be just so completely raw with me. And he said, I don't like anything you have going on in here.
Wow.
You should take. He was just like, I don't know what you're trying to do. You're all over the place. This isn't speaking to me. He was kind of mean, actually. And had this one little drawing on the wall of like a halibut or something, like a weird abstract fish. And he's like, this is the only interesting thing in here. You should take everything down, put it away, and start fresh. And I was so mad, just so angry. I hated him. And then that night I went back to the studios. I took everything down, put that little piece on the wall, and I started over. And I owe him a huge debt of gratitude, because it's kind of when I started, I think I got a little loose that night and just got out my paints and just started getting abstract. Because it's hard to kind of just approach. Everybody says, oh, I could do that. My 3-year-old could do that painting. If you sit down and try to make an abstract painting, you'll realize that your 3-year-old couldn't do it, nor could you, most of the time.
Yes.
Because they are so much more sophisticated than you think when you try to put them together. They just might look easy, some of the ones that are very expressive. But so that's kind of how I started doing abstract and just developed from there.
So we're pretty early in this story, but there's already been 2 people that pissed you off and pushed you out of your comfort zone.
Yes.
Which seem to have pushed you towards greatness.
Yeah,
is really what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a fork in the road at Chico, making you make that decision to go out to a place that you would never, I would never think was so amazing, but opened up this world and you started to flourish. But what about that one abstract fish caught his eye?
I don't know. The work I was doing was really sentimental to me, where I was, doing screen printing and stuff of like a picture of my grandfather, kind of Andy Warhol style, with like the Pall Mall cigarettes that he smoked, and I was doing these kind of quilt-looking type of things with paintings, and I had a couple of my other colleagues at school say, like, why should I care about your sentimental bullshit? Like, I don't care about your life. Like, make something that gives something to me. And I wasn't giving anything to them. I was just, like, reflecting on my life. And I think that's okay. Some people do make really poignant work that means something and is about their father or their mother or whatever.
Yeah.
But I guess for me to make authentic work, I had to figure out like what was in me that I had to get out that wasn't based on another artist or somebody else, Obviously, I'm super influenced by other artists.
Of course.
But it was really cool to, make kind of my first decent painting. My best friend actually has it in Colorado, and recently I've seen her a couple times, and I've been like, "Do you still want that?" Because I kind of. And I just, I got a bunch of like that. When you go to Home Depot and they have that oops paint.
Oops paint?
Oops paint. It's like if you go to the end of the painting aisle where they're mixing paint, they always have all the mistakes.
Yes.
So I just went and bought all the mistakes.
Yeah.
So that's what dictated the palette of that painting.
That's amazing.
And actually turned out to be kind of a cool palette. And that's kind of how it came about. And then I put that painting on the wall with the picture of the fish. And then I just kind of went from there. And I never really went back to doing any portraiture or anything like that. I actually recently tried to do a portrait of my sister-in-law for her birthday, of her when she was a little girl, and it's horrible. I'm so glad I gave it up. It's horrible.
That makes a lot of sense, though, because, like, if you go to my house, you'll see I'm the one that's held on to a lot of the old antiques and furniture from my grandparents. When they passed away, nobody wanted it. I don't know why. But for me, like, oh my gosh, like we were talking about Butterscotch Den earlier before the podcast. When I walk into that bar, it makes me feel like I'm with my grandpa.
Yeah.
Right? It's old. And so when you reference the painting with the Pall Mall, like the family portrait, or exactly what you said. But to me, that's something that could very, very well be meaningful to you, and it's older and vintage like. But man, that's got to be just a whole different level of being an artist when you can move on to something bigger.
Like that feeling of when somebody parts with their hard-earned money to buy something you made with your hands, it's like it's a high you can't really experience. It's so like graduating from grad school, like you have a culminating exhibition, and I don't know, I got really lucky that year because my whole show sold out.
Oh my goodness.
It's the first time you made any money.
Yeah.
My work's really labor intensive. It takes a long time. It's layers and layers and layers. And I never felt, I remember getting home that night and I had friends over and I was just jumping on my bed, just screaming because that feeling to know that somebody, they love your work. They love it enough that they're, and my work's not inexpensive. It costs a lot to make. It's just such a great feeling, and it's really, it's like you get drunk on it too, where you're like,
amazing.
I want to have that again. And
Amazing.
again. So it's really cool.
Man, well, I mean, now obviously you were in a great location where people appreciated things like that. You made this adjustment. Did it feel right from the beginning when you made the adjustment to how your work was? Did you immediately know this is?
I did actually, and I experimented for a long time with all kinds of stuff and like what do you call it? Those paints that you blow out of all kinds of just different materials. I was just experimenting with absolutely anything. And it really did. But when I did kind of have another aha moment was when I was trying to do this technique called encaustic. And encaustic is, I think it's the hardest technique you could ever do. I can't do it at all. It's layered wax. So it's like paint and wax mixed, and it's layered, and it's really ethereal and really beautiful and impossible. And I was trying to do it and failing horribly. And I had another professor, and he said, "Hey, have you ever used that stuff at Home Depot?" Home Depot's really was like that was my place, I guess, for art supplies. Have you ever used that stuff that they use on bar tops? That's like, has a hardener, 2-part, and I was like, "No, I haven't used it." He goes, go get some and try that, see if that works. So, tried and failed with many, pouring it on a canvas, and the canvas would, it was too heavy. And so after, about a year of playing with this material, I finally got it, which it ended up being what I use now is a lot more sophisticated than the Home Depot product, but it's a resin.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's allowed me to not just like make a painting, but I almost feel like I'm making a sculpture, but the sculpture is like within a layer because it's, like you're painting.
You got it. You have to like really see it and feel it and touch it to truly appreciate it. Like you're explaining it right now. I'm just saying, like if we'll have to make a separate, we'll get together and maybe go look at some of her art so you can see it firsthand. But it is literally, it's a trip. It's a trip. It looks like you almost want to eat it. And that sounds crazy to me.
No, I love that when people say that.
Yeah,
They're like, I want to touch it. I want to eat it.
And then when you walk by, like, so where I have mine, we have our couch, and behind my couch is our door to the backyard. So it'll change when like the natural light hits it. And then when you walk by it, you'll see, I don't know, it's hard for me to explain, but there's a lot of like patterns and layers to it. It's a trip. And for somebody like myself that has experimented with hallucinogens, I was thinking last night, I'm like, do you really want to say this on the podcast? And yes, I do. But this, I mean,
there's some psychedelic elements to the work for sure.
There is for sure. And I'm not saying that like, and who knows, you're going to have to walk us through your brainchild of how you came up with this. This is abstract, as abstract gets. But for me, I really appreciate it on completely different levels because I have experimented with DMT, mushrooms. It's something that has been beneficial for me. And when you get to look at art and it takes you back to certain times, it's a trip. So thank you very much. Kudos to you for
that makes me happy.
Making incredible art that is just so freaking layered.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know where it comes from. It's just like I think once you start painting and practicing, just like anything, it just kind of these forms started coming out, and I don't know what the influence is really. I think there is some. I've always really been interested in kind of that 1960s architecture and textile, mid-century modern stuff. And I think there is some influence of that in there, but there's all kinds of stuff in there.
Yeah, I was to say like there's art, and this is such a tough thing to talk about because art is what could be, like you said, kind of like special to somebody, maybe to somebody else it's just like But I was gonna say like there's artwork that you look at and then there's artwork that you stare at, and I would definitely say that your stuff is stuff that I love staring at it. It's awesome. So cool. So Texas, and now you're doing shows where you're getting paid, right?
Yeah.
Or is that after?
Well, so what happens when I kind of came onto the art scene after graduating, it was before social media. So nobody was really promoting their own work. So you worked with the gallery. And when you worked with the gallery gets 50%, you get 50%. That's just how that was just the formula. And I was really lucky. I got picked up by this gallery called Fine Silver. And Chris Irk was the owner. And he was this guy, this character who's wonderful. He and his wife, Georgia, they owned this big, beautiful old warehouse, manufacturing warehouse. And he took it and like the floors look like this, polished all the concrete floors. And we're talking, I don't know how, there was thousands and thousands of square feet. I had a studio for free that was about 20 times the size of this room.
Oh my goodness.
Warehouse windows, all glass. It was so great. So they picked me up right out of grad school. It was a total dream.
So they picked you up because of your art.
Yes. So they came to my culminating exhibition. They saw the work and said, "Hey, you know, we want to show you. We want you to be one of our artists."
Yeah.
How old were you? Approximate.
29, 28,
Okay.
something like that. So, like I left Sacramento when I was 18, and you know, between like I said, going to school and following boyfriends and stuff like that. I like always I moved every couple years.
Yeah,
I like to
yeah.
go explore and do stuff. So I got to have my first show there, and that was like the real deal, real thing. They like made my panels are made of birch and poplar and hardwood because you have to the resin will kill a canvas. They had all my panels made. I had assistants helping me. Like it was incredible. I had a room to pour resin in. It was really a special. This is the biggest gift you could ever get coming out of grad school. And they were taking my work to art fairs. So they took it to like Art Miami Basel. They took it to France, like all these places. And so I was getting in these cool collections. And my resume was starting to look pretty good. They got me, shows in Seattle at a show. I can't remember exactly, but kind of like connecting me with other galleries, because if they build you as an artist that sells nationally and internationally, then your prices start to go up a little bit. So that was great. They opened another location in Houston. I showed there. I got this another huge break, which was, I would say there's like, a few points in your career. And it was, I got into this artist residency called Skowhegan. And it's a really prestigious, again, I got pretty lucky. The woman who kind of runs the whole thing happened to be in San Antonio when my exhibition was up. And she saw it and said, "I think you should apply." And I applied. And it's like 30 women, 30 men, average age is 30. And you're on this huge farm on this lake in Maine for the summer. And they just like throw you parties and feed you booze, and everybody gets crazy. But during the day, you make art all day. But people are doing all kinds of experimental stuff the whole time. Like, it just wild, wild stuff. And these incredible artists are coming from New York to like stay there for a week at a time. People that are seasoned artists that are famous, that are coming to like, dance at night in a field with you, like it was.
We
so
got to
crazy.
stop right there.
This is insane. Like,
Yeah, so I knew that we would be getting some gold like this, but
and I love it. Even before you ask your question, this is the whole reason why I love this kind of setup, because I would have to pull with everything to get something like that out of you, to celebrate what you've accomplished along the way. This story needs to be out. I'm floored by what she's talking about right now.
yeah, and that's how I know that somebody like myself is so polar opposite of Kim, because I'd be bending your ear.
You would tell me every time.
I would tell you every single time. We'd go on our little wine trip journey, and I go, "All right, guys, for the next 2 hours, I'm going to tell you some fun stories." But I mean, I'm just thinking, like, at the age of 29, 30 years old, for you, that just literally sounds like a dream that you were living, like a summer in Maine,
It was,
meeting the people that you've met and like the experiences. You have to. I know that Renee's going to ask you some questions later on, but like, that has to probably show up as how you are as a mother with your kids, right? I'm just thinking, like, in regards to just, you seem like a pretty free spirit.
we give our kids a lot of rope. Definitely not helicopter-y at all. And I feel like my parents, whether they meant to or not, and my brother as well, like we both turned out to be pretty good people and successful people. And my parents were kind of going through a hard time when we were at that age. Like, they had me when they were so young; they were 20.
Yeah.
So we always joke around like we raised ourselves, and we kind of did.
Yeah.
And I think that, like, if you're, I don't know, it's so different now.
Yeah.
There's so many different ways to get in trouble now, but we really like we were latchkey kids. They trusted us.
Yeah.
And sometimes we were lying, but it all came out, we came out okay. So I try to give my kids a little more rope, but I also try to give them a little more support and lift them up for things that maybe I didn't get to. My kids are both musicians. My son's been a drummer for 7 years, and now he's like writing music. And
See, that's kind of where I was going. 'Cause
Yeah.
I didn't know too much about it, but like I could have articulated better. When I hear of somebody like yourself just saying, yes, I'm going to take off the text, that to me, that's a risk. I mean,
Big time.
One of the biggest things for me is like, man, I've always just kind of been in Sacramento. I love Sacramento. I've traveled a lot, but I never like if I were to look back at my 20s, I would have told my younger self to take a little bit more risks, you know? And then now hearing the story of like who you met and like the people that came around you and just hearing these stories, I think it's probably shaped you a lot of who you are, you know.
must have driven my parents crazy. Must have driven them crazy. Like, I'm going to Texas. They're like, what the? And then, so
Did they get to like? Are they? Would they be going out to your events in Texas and like how?
they came to my final
Yeah.
exhibition.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it was really cool. My best friends and my parents came out for that, and it was really special to have them
I
there
bet.
and going like, oh, okay, you're not just a jackass. You actually like sold this show out, and the work's pretty cool.
You
and
proved me wrong.
So yeah, so it was pretty cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, so you can fast forward a little bit. You had mentioned something about Brooklyn. I don't know what part of your life that took place, but I was talking to Kendra, and she had mentioned either New York or Boston. I think it was New York. Am I right or wrong about that?
Kind of right about both.
Okay.
So I met this guy. Two of my best friends from Sacramento, from Sac High, during the .com, like went down to San Francisco and were working for recruiters. And they met these two guys that were from back east. One of them's from New Jersey, and one of them is from Cape Cod. And they were working for a tech company. And so they met them, and those guys all started dating. And then they're like, oh, you got to meet our friend Toad. That was my husband's nickname, Toad. And so one of them had met him at Syracuse. The other one was his best friend from childhood. He connected those guys. And so one summer, I went out to Cape Cod with these guys and met this guy, Toad. And he was there with his beautiful girlfriend. And we all stayed at this house together and met at Toad's parents' house. And, I didn't think a thing of it. I was like, no, I'm not going out with that guy. I'm not attracted to him, not interested, whatever. He's got a girlfriend. But I just remember sitting on this dock one day, and I was, he and Robbie were playing cards, and me and my friend were laying in the sun, and I was listening to his voice, and I just remember thinking like, oh, that guy's got a really nice voice. I like his voice, which nobody thinks about stuff like that. And then I kind of found myself like, as we were at this house, like trying to impress him, but subconsciously kind of like we were playing games or like trivia games and stuff like that. And then didn't see him again for a long time. Showed up like 6 months later at one of those friends' weddings. We were both in the wedding. Again, wasn't initially like nothing, And a little ways through the wedding, he asked me to dance, and we start dancing, and the guy could cut a rug.
Oh wow.
And I don't know what it is, but I don't know if you guys can dance. I hope you can, because all my California boyfriends, they never wanted to dance. They didn't know how to dance. And like the East Coast guys know how to dance.
Really?
Like every time we'd go to like one of their weddings, like everybody would dance with each other's guys, and they can all, they all dance pretty well. So it kind of got my attention all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, who is this guy? And so after that wedding, we started corresponding. We may have made out that night. And we started corresponding. It was right when Hotmail started.
Oh, wow.
Literally,
Wow.
like,
Great.
it was
This is
right when
so
Hotmail
good.
started. And in the art studio, there was a computer.
Uh-huh.
I didn't have my whatever those big first Apple computers were, those
Apple
clear
IIcs?
ones. Oh God, I didn't have that yet. So I would, be on Hotmail, and we corresponded for a few months.
So he's living in Cape Cod,
He was in New York City, so he lived in New York in Brooklyn for 7 years,
but
and was a
he's from
teacher.
Cape Cod.
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
He grew up, born and raised in Cape
How
Cod.
beautiful is Cape Cod, by the way?
It's so beautiful. It's so beautiful 5 months out of the year.
I know.
Good point.
Because I lived there too, and it's very cold.
Oh,
It's really cold. There's, we've got it made here.
I don't deal with the cold well, so I'm with you.
You didn't make a bad choice staying in Sacramento. Why do you think I'm back after living in so many places?
So so you guys are messaging through Hotmail, and at that time he's living in Brooklyn. Is that correct?
Yeah. So we're, forming this relationship. We're courting each other through letters, basically, and we did written letters too. And then we started. I flew out there, and then he would come fly and see me in San Antonio, and so then we had this long distance relationship for a while.
Wow.
And we actually broke up so I could go to that art thing because I was like, I don't think I can have a boyfriend while I'm here.
Yeah.
And then afterwards,
Understood.
we were friends, but I think I gave him his first heartbreak, which I think is important. I hope you guys have had your hearts broken because I feel like it's a gift after you get over
Yes.
it. And then 9/11 happened, and he worked downtown when that happened. And although we hadn't talked to each other in a while, I saw the plane hit the building on TV, called him, and he picked up the phone and was standing in the middle of the street, Fifth Avenue, watching it happen.
Goodness.
And then from that day forward, we talked every day.
Oh my goodness.
And then our other friends, the other couple, they got married in October. I hope the story isn't too boring, but it's pretty. I think
No.
it's kind of informative.
Yeah.
They got married in Tahoe a few weeks later. Everyone was like so afraid to fly. I think I was too afraid to fly, so I drove from Texas to Tahoe.
Goodness. Oh my
And
goodness.
we were in that wedding, and from the second we saw each other, we didn't leave each other's side, and spent. I toured him around Northern California. We went to Carmel and Big Sur and did all this stuff. And then when it came time to leave, I didn't want to leave, and
Yeah.
he didn't want to leave. And so I was driving home to Texas, and I called him and said, "Can I move to Brooklyn and live with you?" But it was a really weird time to move there.
Yeah,
It was like
of course.
October after September
Yeah.
11th. So, but it was great. And then I lived there with him until about June of that year.
Oh my good, what a story.
So basically, you've covered more ground than most people have. You mentioned Texas, which by the way, going back to Texas, I'm a big Texas fan. I
Yeah.
love
Awesome people.
Austin, San Antonio. Those are like the two spots that I've got to frequent. Great people, great food. I just stay out of politics. I'm not.
Yeah, they don't talk. That's the interesting thing is my experience there was when you had a bunch of artists and a bunch of rich people in a room, that there was no talk of you just know your lane and you are talking about art and
Yeah.
very open-minded people about all of that, and you just don't talk about things that you're not going to disagree or that you're going to disagree
Good.
about.
Yeah.
It's almost just like Southern manners,
That's
know?
great.
So
Yep.
it was nice.
Brooklyn. Well, I mean, do you have anything you want to mention about Brooklyn? I went to New York for the first time 2 years ago. My buddy Dan and his now wife Anna moved. They were like living in Natomas, both working remotely. They're like, let's just move to New York. And so they just moved to Manhattan. That's crazy.
I
And
had some friends do that too.
That's crazy.
So I got off the airplane, and I'm a big basketball guy. I'm like, I got to go to see a Knicks game at Madison Square Garden. So like, got off the plane, went to see the Knicks play, walked through Times Square, which was like mind melting. It was, during the holidays, so all the lights were up. But the next day we went to Brooklyn because I wanted to go see where Jay-Z grew up in Marcy Projects, and I wanted to see like the famous Biggie mural, which is a beautiful mural. And we ended up having like dinner in Brooklyn. The vibe was just completely different, obviously,
Yeah.
than Manhattan, which seemed a little bit more busy and bustling.
Yeah.
But what was your time like living in Brooklyn?
It was really cool. So where Todd lived, his name's Todd, not Toad. Where he lived was it's called Dumbo, down under the
Oh, yeah.
Manhattan Bridge overpass.
So he lived there probably before it got renovated.
Yeah. So Dumbo was is beautiful now. It's like, I think our building is now West Elm headquarters.
Gotcha.
And it was right next to the Manhattan Bridge. You could, from the top of the building, throw a ball and hit the bridge. So, and the train went under there, so like it was pretty loud.
That's crazy.
But it was a cool old brick manufacturing building, and like going up the staircase, like the windows are all broken and there's roll-up doors. But we had a quarter of the top of the building, huge, and it was pretty cheap at the time. And I imagine it's so expensive now, but being that it was right after 9/11, there was right next door to us was where they stored all the cars that got flattened by the towers. So every day you walked out your door and there was hundreds of cars all stacked up. So you were always reminded every day of that.
Oh my goodness.
And it was a really somber time to live there. We still had a great time.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful time, but it was heavy and and scary. And your brain did weird things. Like, you'd be jogging over the Brooklyn Bridge and a barge would be coming, and you'd think, what if there's a bomb? What if they want to, your brain did really weird stuff at that time.
How long were you there?
I was there for about like 8 or 9 months.
Okay.
So, and it was great and I loved it, but I think we were in that stage where we were financially going downhill fast. Our credit cards were going like this because we love going to music and bars and restaurants and having, all this fun. We love like good wine and we don't, my husband's horrible on a budget. So we decided, let's regroup and we'll go live in Cape Cod for the summer. His parents have this family property that like his grandparents lived on one side. That's where he grew up. They have lake property. It's modest but beautiful.
Yeah.
And there was this old boathouse that he and his friends every summer had lived in, and they called it the Shed. There's not a bathroom in it.
Oh my goodness.
And so we lived in that for the summer.
Oh my goodness.
And just thought, well, and we were just like so falling in love, like just did everything together, and it's such a romantic, beautiful place. Oh. And then I got to know all of his friends and got to know his family, and then we decided, well, let's stay. And so I don't know how long you've been doing mortgages, but this was back when you could be like, hey, I need a mortgage, and I make between us we make $3,000 a month, and they'd be like, okay, just sign here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was doing it then. Yes.
So we ended up buying a house for like I think it was like $180,000 total, like piece of crap house, but it was on an acre, beautiful.
Nice.
And that was our courtship, was doing this house together, like tiling the bathroom and and we made the most beautiful little house there and just had a great time as a couple there. And then we got engaged and then lived there for a little while longer. But it's a hard place to make a living.
Yeah.
I was going back to San Antonio to make art during the really cold months.
Yeah.
I'd go back and go to that great studio.
Exactly. I was going to ask what was going on with your art during that time frame.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was great. And then, but after we got married, we got married here actually in Nevada. We got married in Edgewood. And I really just felt that call to home again. When I left Sacramento, I was like, I'm never living there again. That place sucks,
Yeah. Yeah.
But then once you live in New York and Boston and Seattle, you're like, you just realize that we have the best weather in the world here. Yeah. And I missed my family and, and we were talking about having kids and I knew I couldn't do that without them. So
had he been out here yet at that time?
Yeah. And he really liked it. But I thought I was kind of making him sell his soul a little bit because he's, he has like a Boston accent. Like he's a back Easter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we moved out here. He went to work for my dad doing general contracting, and I was just making art and, trying to do that, doing all kinds of stuff to make a living. I lost my train of thought.
I was going to say, I wanted to comment on this uniqueness. I actually dated somebody for a very short time. We're now friends who's from have you heard of Sandwich? The little town of Sandwich?
I lived in Sandwich. That's where that house was. That house was in Sandwich.
Come on. I
swear to God.
How small of a world is that?
Yeah.
So
oh
I remember flying out. We went to like a concert in Boston, and then went back, got to meet some of her family. Well, they were having a wedding, coincidentally having a wedding, and I'll never forget this. It was like somewhere by the water, and for the reception, everyone was eating lobster.
Oh, yeah.
And we had like the lobster bibs on. And I remember like a bunch of these Boston boys that were at the wedding were like, who's the guy that's sticking out like a sore thumb? Right? And they were like, come on, you're going to be taking shots with us. And I think they had a plan to single me out. I got so drunk that my date had to like literally carry me, in the parking lot. It was
Chris.
it was
Oh,
brutal.
Chris.
It was brutal, but there's that East Coast. Another thing that I wanted us to say too, we're gonna definitely get into real estate, but this is just something that I feel. I was listening to Mark Huberman. I think his name's Mark, right? The Huberman.
The Huberman Project, right?
Yeah.
I think it's-
Anyways, he's a renowned guy, studied and has a pretty good podcast. And he's from the Bay Area,
Yep.
and he was talking about his time living in New York, him and his girlfriend at the time, and his infatuation with it, which is mine, is just that electricity you feel, the stimulation that you feel. Because I hear like small-minded people, like another city that I'm a big fan of is San Francisco. And it kills me that like I hear a lot of people and the first thing out of their mouth is they're mentioning the homeless or they're mentioning how dirty the streets are. And it's like, of course, if you want to focus on any of that stuff, you can focus on it. But I think that there's just so much beauty in getting to have some of the chapters in your life in areas like that, even the more quaint spots like Cape Cod. And then it makes you also appreciate the gem of what we have here in Sacramento, because I try to explain that to people, but I am just a Sacramento fan, just for all the beautiful little quaint things we have here. The weather, you can say the cliche things like we're close to Tahoe, we're close to SF. And to be honest, it's kind of true too. We have
anywhere.
Yeah, like Kendra and I, we'll get the wild hair, and I'm like, babe, do you want to go to the city for 24 hours? We do that a lot now.
Yeah.
And just 24 hours, we'll get to go to our favorite restaurant. We'll get to be around more of a eclectic, energetic city, and then we get to drive back home.
Yeah.
And so so at what point in your story, what I want to know, so you get married, you guys have the house in Cape Cod. Did you end up selling that house?
So I have very few regrets in my life. And
Oh, boy.
there's two of them, and one of them is, they're both real estate related.
Oh.
One of them is not being emotionally attached to a property. We always tell our clients, take
Yep.
the emotion out of it. We loved that house so much, and it basically, we put probably like 20,000 into it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but we were really scrappy. And this was
Oh, yeah.
a long time ago, like 2003. And we should have sold it. It gained about $100,000 worth of value. And that would have been a huge thing to come to California with. But instead, we thought, let's rent it out. So we rented it out to this really nice gal and her son. And turns out that about 6 months later, the old neighbors started calling us and saying, hey, there's a sexual predator registered sex offender living in the property.
No.
And there was nothing we could do about it, but all of the neighbors were really upset about it. I don't know if this is appropriate to talk about,
that's
but
all right.
so it was kind of a bummer, and they just ended up just
Messing up the house.
destroying the
Oh,
house.
no.
So then we went to sell it. Was like, I don't know, 2008, when
Exactly.
it was a really bad time.
But they don't have anything on the disclosures that are that pertain to.
There's no way you could have known that.
That was just a bad
Yeah.
joke. What I'm saying? They're like, was there a death on the? No, that's actually California. California
Yeah.
disclosures are probably a little bit more crazy. But
Yeah.
anyways,
Dang.
Yeah. So we ended up selling it and breaking even. Could have been way worse.
Yeah.
But just lesson learned there. Like
you
don't
got
try
the headache
don't try to
and
manage
lost
a
the money.
property
Yeah,
from
exactly.
across the
does Todd still have family out in the Cape Cod area?
So his sister lives in Boston, and his aunt still lives in Cape Cod. His parents moved out here as soon as we had babies.
Nice.
Because they would come out here and they were retired and
Yeah.
they had all this property to take care of. And it's like isolating and very cold. It's very rural where they lived. And they'd come out here and they'd be walking around East Sac like in January. This is amazing. So one day my mother-in-law called and said, we'd really like to move to Sacramento. And we happened to have a house right next door to us come up for rent. So
Oh,
they
my goodness.
rented that, which was
Perfect.
wonderful. I had a 6-month-old and a
Yeah.
2.5-year-old. Was perfect for a couple of years. And then it was like, okay, leave some space. So then they moved, a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
And that was great because my kids went to Theodore Judah
Yeah.
and they would ride their bikes to grandma, who's a retired second grade school teacher.
Was that your mom or?
No, Todd's mom.
Okay, where are you, now? Where are your parents? And
My parents were born and raised here. My mom's from West Sac. My dad's from the Delta, so he's from Cortland.
okay,
And they got married and had me about 6 months later, and stayed together for a long time. They're still good friends.
Yeah.
where do they live now?
My mom lives in Campus Commons, which is great because
Yeah.
she's super close.
Yes.
And my dad, he's the church lady of Walnut Grove now. So he moved into his parents' house in Walnut Grove down there, which is such a great little town.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys have been down there.
Yeah.
If you ever want to go to a killer crab feed, they have the best.
Oh,
St.
that's
Anthony's
great.
Church. My dad, Ron Squaglia, runs it.
That's great.
And so my dad he's really involved with the church down there, the Catholic Church, and everybody knows him. He's like the mayor of the town.
That's
so
awesome.
Unfortunately, he lives far away. We don't get to see him
Yep.
as much, but he's super happy and he has a lot of purpose. And I think that's important
is.
as you age,
Oh, big time.
so it keeps him young.
Todd's parents still in Sac?
Yeah, they live over by Bertha Henschel Park, and they walk everywhere, and they're just really great people. They're the type of people that make friends really easily.
Yeah.
So, yeah, so
That's
they're
great.
really happy. They love it here, and nobody's a bigger fan of Sacramento than my husband.
Wow.
He loves it.
Great that it ended up that way.
He loves it here.
Oh, my
He doesn't even
goodness.
like to go visit his friends back here.
So did he keep up with it? I know that I've spoke with you in the past, but sounds like he does construction as well, and you're able to get him to work. I would imagine with like refer him to some of your clients and things
Yeah.
like that. That's still happening.
Yeah, he's a big part of my business actually, because
Nice.
it's really hard you have a client that's looking at a house
Yep.
that goes, I wonder if you could take this wall out, and then try to get a contractor to come look at that. They're not going to come look at it because they're like,
Yep.
I don't want to waste my time. I don't even know if you're getting the house. So that's when I'm like, hey, honey. And I don't bug him too much, but
Of course.
if I can get him to do that, I think that's great. It helps people. Sometimes he talks people out of stuff. I'm always very adamant. Like, you have to be absolutely honest about
Yeah.
this. I don't want somebody calling me 6 months later, we can't take that wall out. And then, if there's certain jobs for certain clients that I think is a good fit, then I'll recommend him. It works out great. And also having such a flexible schedule, like our business has been so crazy for a couple years. This year finally, was manageable. But the couple years before that, we were all like,
Yeah.
holy mackerel, this
Yeah.
is crazy. So he was able to be primary parent, and he's much more of a patient parent than I am too. He's a really good
great.
dad, super good dad.
Yes.
I'm the disciplinarian. He's like the even keel, like cool guy. So he was, before they were driving them to all their practices and to and from school and all that stuff. So it was really important to have one of us that was able to do that. And he's
Amazing.
he doesn't have like a big ego. He wasn't like, I got to make all the money or anything.
Yeah.
He was like, you go, you're making the money right now. So
Yeah.
you do that. And so that worked out really well for us. And I think it worked out best for my kids.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. And yeah, let's step back into it. I want to hear with that transition to real estate. When did real estate become on the radar for you when you got back this way?
Oh, well, around 2008, when all the galleries were closing and nobody was buying art, and there was a lot of houses on the market, and it was really everything, just the recession
Yep.
hit. And I was still doing a little bit of business. I got really lucky with that department store, Neiman Marcus,
Okay,
started
yeah,
buying
yeah,
my work, and
yeah.
they did about 6 projects with me.
Wow.
So that would, when I was just about to step out of art, they'd be like, "We got a
Kept
big
you
project
just
for
enough.
you." And I'd be like, "Yes." But somewhere in there, my sister-in-law, who is a developer in town,
Mm-hmm.
Rachel Bardis, she developed the mill with her cousin Catherine.
That's your
And-
sister-in-law?
Yes, she's also one of my best friends. Like, we've become very close. Her and my brother have been married for, I don't know, probably about 17 years now, 18 years. And so I've learned a lot from her about business. But at the time when the market tanked, she's like, "You should get your license." I'm like, "Well, why? Real estate's horrible right now." And she said, "Because a lot of these agents are going to quit, and
Yeah.
it'll be good for you to have it." So, because I was kind of pivoting, trying to figure out, like, okay, well, I don't know. I wasn't making a lot of money
Yeah.
from the get-go making art.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of pressure on my husband. And I had lots of other jobs too. I was also a florist in Cape Cod, so I was a florist here too, and did lots of weddings. And I love doing that.
Oh,
I
that's
still love
amazing.
doing that. It's
Yeah.
like it's really hard to screw up flowers. And so I forgot where I was going with this.
Real estate.
Real estate.
2008.
Oh yeah. So we got to a point financially that was really difficult. Two self-employed people, one of them being an artist.
With
And-
kids.
With kids. And having to like pay a babysitter so you could go out to your art studio, it just didn't. It wasn't feeling.
Understood.
It was weird, you know.
Yeah.
And I feel bad for creative people because you feel like, well, I'm doing this for myself, but if it's your job, it's your job.
For
so
sure.
you do get this guilt about I shouldn't be paying for childcare while I'm indulging in myself, and it just it was time for something to change, so I got my real estate license. I was doing the floral stuff, and I met my business partner Tim Collum. We were friends through art for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I kind of like kept going, and I ended up getting this big art show in New York City, and I thought, oh, this is fucking it. Like,
Yeah.
I got it. Like, I'm showing in New York, and the names on the list in this show, it was a group show, were just insane. Andy Warhol was in the show. I mean, yes, he was dead, but his work was in the show.
Goodness.
Murakami, Robert Indiana, like there was probably 30 artists, and I was like one of the only no-namers in there. And they had seen my work at an art show. It was a black tie thing on the Upper East Side. So like my husband and I, our friend Micah, my sister-in-law, we all went out there and had this super fancy weekend in New York City with our fancy gear and went to this big art show. And this is circling back to art again, and I walked in this art show, beautiful. It's called the Mansion, and Waterfall Mansion is what it's called. And the second I walked in the door of this 3-story huge mansion, this big huge piece of mine is the first piece you see when you walk in the door.
Oh my goodness!
And
Out
I
of
just
all of that,
lost it. I just started bawling. I was like, I fucking made it. Like, I just thought, like, this is it. Like, I'm gonna get so many offers, and because you get in a big show like that, then other galleries come and they go, hey, we want to show you, and you schedule all these shows. You do 4 shows a year.
Was that piece for sale during that?
Yes.
Was it like a piece like this? Was it like a resin piece?
I think it might be in there.
Oh wow.
Oh, I'm not sure, but it is. I own it. It's been all around the country, and it's been shown, and nobody ever bought it. And I was like, you know what? It's because I'm supposed to have it.
Yeah.
So I'll never sell it. And
Can we disclose what that thing was for sale for?
it depends where it was for sale for. If it's for sale in Sacramento, it's a huge piece. It's like 60 by 60. So
Okay.
it's a really large piece. It was in Sacramento. I think we had it. I think it was 12 grand or 14. In New York, I think
25.
it was 16. I
Oh,
think it was
is it-
16,
okay.
something like that. But then, like now it's different. People sell their own work now a lot. So, I'd be used to getting 50%. So, when I sell through a gallery now, still, that's how it works. But I don't make that much work anymore, so I just usually sell it myself.
yeah.
But so had that show in New York, and I had told my husband before the New York show, because it took months to get ready for it, and cost a lot of money to get there. If something doesn't happen, like if I don't get anything, that's it.
You found it.
That's it. If it's spoken.
Man,
I think.
amazing.
Oh no, wait, unrequited. That's called unrequited. But anyway, so that is, months go by, I don't sell anything. I got to pay for the paintings to get back to me, which is super
Wow.
expensive. I don't get any offers. Nothing happens. We're broke. And my husband one day goes, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And you've met Todd. He looks like a contractor. He is not he's not a real estate guy. Not that you have a certain look, but like he just doesn't, like his hands are like this big. Like he's not, and his demeanor is not of a real estate agent. And I went in my room and I literally put my face on my pillow and just cried and cried and cried. I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to call him tomorrow. Because Tim had always been like, just call me when you're ready. I need you. Like, I have business and I need help. And I know you'll be good at this.
Now, so was this,
This is like,
this is after you got your license?
yeah, this is like 2013.
Okay.
2013.
Was Tim with you when you went on that trip to New York? Okay.
No.
So
No.
you got, because you said you got your license in 2008. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
I think, no, 2010, I think it was about.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
around there.
Yeah.
So during that time, you mentioned when Tim's like, just come and join me, were you just kind of just doing kind of like onesie twosie deals a little bit?
I wasn't doing anything.
Oh, got it.
I think I did like one deal with my sister-in-law, and I was like, I hate this. I just didn't like. I'm not tech savvy. I don't like paperwork. I'm not very smart with that kind of stuff. and I didn't like it. I didn't know what I was. I don't like not knowing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Got it.
And
Yes, intimidating at first.
Now, what
I
you
was so
seem like,
intimidated.
and I'm sure you're going to touch on this, but what you seem like what is natural for you is relationship stuff, right? Where like, I don't know, like just building relationships, building rapport, like just talking with people. That seems like it's pretty natural for you, yeah?
I think it is, but I didn't. When you're making art by yourself, you are in a cave alone, and I just like listen to NPR all day and like. And
So you
Don't
weren't
do that anymore,
because
but-
what Tim's known for, and I've never had this conversation. I'm very much going to interested in what she says, but I mean everyone that knows Tim, I mean you see he was featured in papers as he was the guy that would go door knocking, and he was the guy that would do all of the core stuff and just bang on the phones. And so did you start doing any of that stuff, or?
No, I had formed opinions about Tim before I knew him.
I love that.
Because I was-
careful statement.
Because I was like, it was kind of like when social media started, and I was like, "Who's this jackass doing paintings of dogs and stuff and selling them?" And I don't know. I was just like, and then at the same time, he's like, "Look at me!" Like, because he was the first, kind of one of the first guys to self promote, And at the time, it was an adjustment for me because that was like bragging, and I couldn't self-promote my artwork because I have contracts with galleries and stuff like that. You couldn't really do that, and they didn't really want you to do that. And
Did you know that?
I did not know that.
So I found that out, I was like, wow, like that when and you can like touch on this, but yeah, when you have contracts with art galleries, your art is only supposed to be sold through the galleries.
Yeah.
So so back.
because then people will just come to you and
Of course.
they get it for less, and so the model has sort of changed, and a lot of artists around here started changing it around here. They were starting to sell stuff from social media, and I was like, man, this isn't fair, and I didn't like it, and so initially, before I knew Tim, I kind of formed opinions about him that I thought he was like kind of cheesy, and like I didn't like what he was doing.
Yeah.
I just thought self promotion was bad.
Yeah.
But really, in real estate, self promotion is promoting your clients.
It
Because
is.
if people know to contact you if they're looking in a certain area, or if you're promoting their homes and things like that, it's become a huge tool, whether we are comfortable with it or not. So I end up crying my pillow. I tell Todd, like, fine, I'm going to call him tomorrow. So I call Tim. We meet at a Starbucks which ironically is across from her, next door to our office, used to be. And I say, okay, I think I'm ready to do this, but I'm just really nervous about the paperwork and all the contracts, and I don't know how to DocuSign. And he's like, oh, that's what we have Aspen for. Aspen is has been Tim's assistant transaction coordinator for like 20 years. And she's the third person in the deal. Like she does everything and is amazing and is a licensed agent and knows way more than I do about anything. And I was like, what? I don't have to do that stuff. And as soon as I found that out, I got kind of excited. I'm like, okay, so I just have to find houses for people. I just have to be a buyer's agent.
Let me just chime in real quick too, just why this is special from what I've seen, because like the difference between me and Tim is I've had a lot of failed teams, a lot of failed assistants. That's to have longevity like that. That's special.
Oh,
that's
serious.
number one, especially in the real estate industry.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of turnover in our industry, but kudos to you. What it sounds like is the delegation piece. That seemed like you were okay with that from the jump.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I didn't want control of that just because I really, I don't know, maybe a little ADD. I just like, I'm not, it would take me forever to write like a paper in college and stuff.
Yeah.
I'm a visual person. And so Tim's basically like, okay, I'm going to have you come in, meet our broker. We were at Dunnigan at the time. Went in the next day, they got my paperwork. I was ready to go, got some pictures taken, and it was off to the races. And Tim gave me my first person I sold a house to was my friend, Micah Crandall-Bear, bought a house for me. And that was amazing. And he still lives in that house. And it was it's such a cool house. So, and then the second one, Tim gives me this guy's phone number. And this guy is so wonderful. He has no idea, Ash, it's you, if you ever listen to this. He has no idea that he was basically the first person that I sold a house to. I had no idea what I was doing. Tim it wasn't like there was a training thing. It was like, just go do this. Just call me if you get stumped. So Ash and Anna, I take them around and, we look for a couple weeks, find them a house, put in an offer, they get it. And then it's all the whole learning process of like, oh, okay, we have to do inspections. And so Aspen and Tim are helping me through my first transaction. You know how it is? Like you do your first one and then you're like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit better. And then you learn something from every one. But when I sat down with him that day, it's like, you can still do art. You can do one deal a month if you want. It's like, you don't have to, however many you want. And then I got my first paycheck and I was like, I like this. This is so cool. Because it's, you take on risk.
Yeah.
And you might work with somebody for 2 years and not sell them a thing and spend hundreds of hours. I've done that. I'm sure you've done that. But then, you work with somebody for a couple weeks and you find them a home, and that family has been with me through a couple of sales and purchases, and I've got to see their girls grow up and, them have babies and all that stuff. And then you get to feel like you're part of the community because you see these kids that are now like off in college and you can't believe it. And, they were 12 when you met them. And so it's been 9.5 years that I've been working with Tim.
I mean, and there's two things that actually go really hand in hand together, which is real estate and art.
Yeah.
I mean, I would imagine that out of all of the clients that you've served over the years, have there been any clients that own any of your artwork?
Oh, sure.
Right?
I would
Yeah,
guarantee
absolutely.
that.
And
That's a
I
great question.
recently, last year, I sold to two amazing artists in town that I've known for a long time, and I was so honored that they reached out to me, and it was because of that I do art and Tim does art, and they're very successful. They bought like a $1.7 million house.
Yeah.
So art can be successful, but it really does. And then there's some clients that you're so happy to gift a piece to because they might like it. But then there's other clients you're like, I'm not going to give them that like rainbow heart piece that I give everybody. I think the people that you can that will appreciate it, and then the people that would much rather have a gift card and a bottle of wine and stuff like that. So
Yeah, I didn't cut you off.
No, do you think that when Tim brought you on, it sounded like he was almost waiting. He like knew that you were gonna be. Do you think that he knew that you were gonna become
He
just
had
this
total
powerhouse?
confidence in me. I
He
know,
did.
no, I don't think any of us thought
Yeah.
that we would. I don't. I just think he and I, we fill each other's voids
Yeah.
in a way. We are such different people, types of people. But I think we just like we were just talking about it today.
Uh-huh.
We were like, man, it's going to be 10 years this year.
That's so amazing. I love hearing
I think
it.
if you just can really 100% trust somebody, not that I agree with every decision he
Of
makes, or
course.
he agrees with every decision
course.
I make, or I don't talk behind his back when I'm pissed at him.
Yeah.
Like we all vent and do what we need to do, but I trust that guy has my back, and he trusts that I have his, and we are there to build something together. And I think we've made each other better people in business for sure. And I'm so grateful for where I am, and now I'm a partner, and that's
Amazing.
really cool. And I never, ever in a million years thought I would have anything to do with sales or being in a managerial position. And I will be forever grateful to that man for trusting me and believing in me and seeing something in me where he's like, I know you'll be great at this.
I think if you're able to, in our industry, and I'll give you your flowers right now, you're one of my favorite realtors, and I mean that. There's a lot of good agents at your company, Kendra being one of them. But I'm just like, Rene will tell you, sometimes I say things that I shouldn't say. I'm just very vocal, and I say what I feel. I think our industry is just absolutely scattered with agents that aren't the best. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And then there's people that can really brand themselves and take who they are and use all of their life experiences to give the customer an experience, right? And I would imagine that with you, just hearing your stories and hearing a lot of stories today for the first time, I'm kind of like putting the pieces together a little bit, right? Of, I could probably take a guess that being an artist, you can hear the word real estate and you think of a certain thing. I don't want to sell real estate or be a cheesy salesperson and cold call and all these things. And the beautiful thing is, the thing about this business, which I know that you already know, is that it can be whatever you want to make it.
Yeah.
Right. And you can kind of really put your own spin on it. And I'm sure I'm sure that's why your clients love working with you, is because
I'm sure there's some that don't. I'm sure there's plenty that I haven't, but things haven't gone well. We've all had those. But I think the first time I met you was at like a event or something.
Mm-hmm.
And we had done a deal the previous year, and I met you and I gave you a hug, and I was like, you were my favorite deal this year.
that's
It's
great.
just because it was, I think maybe I had a couple rough ones.
Yeah.
And you were so laid back and chill, and you weren't like, the contingency's due today.
Yeah.
You were just like, okay, it's cool, we'll get there. Like, what do we need? And that's when you're due to deal with somebody else, another company or whatever, and whatever business it is, you guys have a common goal, and sometimes you have to remind other agents that, like, hey, we're not in a battle.
Yeah.
We both
That's
want
right.
to close this, right?
Exactly.
Let's put our heads together. Let's get there. And I don't know if it's like ego or frustration or who knows what's going on in somebody's life. But it is really nice to work with somebody that you're confident in them. And we've all worked with agents in town that you're like, yes, I get to work with that person again. And we have our favorite people. So
Amen.
I
I
know.
love that. And the part of it that I'm really fascinated about is to definitely hear from you. Obviously, you guys are a powerhouse, and the production is absolutely incredible. But now that you're on the management side, and now you're partner, and you guys have an incredible culture and very unique culture as well. You guys are different. You know that whole group. You guys feed off of each other. You can see it from the outside in. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys have built this incredible culture together.
Well, it starts with Tim for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's a really good coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not to me when it was by myself. It's like, here's your leads. But
He's grown. Come
yeah.
on.
No, but I think also because Tim's been involved with AA for so many years, that he's been running a meeting for years and years, and I think you must learn so much about people doing that. You know,
Right.
just
Good point.
what motivates them, and just their inconsistencies, and so I think he's just a natural leader.
Yeah.
And we've had a few trial and errors with people that have come on that weren't a good fit.
Of course.
And you learn from those for sure. We're really lovey-dovey in
Yeah.
that group, and we like nice people, cooperative people. There's not a lot of egos there, and it is mostly women. I think for a while it was like Tim, me, Tina, Kendra, and like if we brought on a couple more agents, he would get ridiculed. Like people see us at broker tour and they'd go, "Oh, there's Tim's harem."
Yeah.
And
I want to just chime in real quick to say a lot of people that talk shit are talking shit out of jealousy
For sure.
because the numbers speak for themselves.
women are just
And
not better agents, but we're just
Yes, they are.
Kim, I'm also going to say this.
Yes, they
I'm speaking from experience because I have a badass mom who, if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't be in real estate. And I got to see, my mom's biggest year of her career was a couple years before I joined her team. She closed 102 deals, and it was her and my sister.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So I'm a big fan to say that women do a really bang up job at selling real estate.
Chris is not the best realtor in his house. Let's put it that way.
I think we have different strengths.
Yes, I am.
That's what's so great about being a partner with a man is I am the person that's like, let's get this house dialed in. No, perfect. Whereas before Tim would be like, just put a sign in the ground,
Yeah.
But then when it comes to negotiating, I'm not saying I'm a bad negotiator, but watching how
Yeah.
he operates in negotiations, he's a little stronger than I am at
Yeah.
that, and I think that makes us together. It's really strong. So I think that helps. But I don't know if I answered a question.
Yeah,
No, we're just kind of
we're just kind
Yeah,
of
I know.
chat. We're just kind of chatting, talking.
yeah.
One thing that I'm curious on, I think this almost goes without saying, because my real estate, I don't know if I regret this, but I remember years ago talking to a mentor of mine, and he was like, "You should get one area, focus on that one area, and just be the person in that one area." And I consider myself an extrovert, but when I'm off, I want to be off.
Yeah.
And I attempted that when I lived in West Sacramento, but what just kind of worked out for me, and I actually prefer it. I don't mind it. Is I'm just the guy that covers the entire Tri-County area. There's not a certain purchase price. I would say I'm more of a blue collar purchase price, but you guys do more luxury stuff. Is that accurate?
I think the more reasonably priced properties, they lead to other things. So like right now I have 2 things in contract that are in the 300s and one that's 1.3. So I work everything. I don't turn anything down unless it's out of my something I don't know about, like I'm not familiar with or comfortable with, or if I have too much, not last year, but maybe the year before, if I have something I can't handle. Luckily, I have all these amazing agents in my office that can take things on too. And certain people have different strengths. Some people are really good with lower end investment properties and spreadsheets and, cap rates. I don't know that.
How fun does that sound?
I'm not very good at that stuff, but I have a couple agents in my office that are amazing at that, and that's where those leads go to.
Yeah.
And I think it built it from going. It wasn't. I don't know how long ago that. I think I sold my first $2 million house. Like there's only been a couple. It hasn't been like a ton. I would, bread and butter is like 6 to 8.
Yeah.
Okay.
Around that range. And
I think you average around that as well,
I
right?
think I'm like a 550-ish, but I'm just like, man, I haven't really crunched median sales prices too often as
know.
of late.
Yeah.
The market's been
I
very
know.
humbling.
Very.
Last year, I just made my post a couple days ago, just giving my thank you to all my business partners and past clients. But my relationship with real estate has completely changed. Even like driving here today, I'm like, this feeling of where I'm at right now feels very similar to when I first got my real estate license. And I'm trying to find like what's the meaning in it all. And I think for me, the biggest thing is, one, finding things that I'm truly, truly passionate about and doubling down on those things. Hence, this is one of them.
Yeah.
Having the podcast and the people that we have in here and just having these conversations. But the second thing is, I feel like when real estate was absolutely chaotic and, you're closing 5 to 10 deals a month at times, for me at least, the gratitude isn't at the same level as it is now. Now I'm like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I got a referral last week from somebody that he introduced me to that we had on the podcast. And I'm like, you won't believe it, but I got a referral for somebody looking to buy a home. Well, I got a text message like 20 minutes later from the gentleman that gave me the referral, and he goes, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I had it mixed up. He needs to rent a home." And I'm like, "It's okay," but like, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
the old me would have been like, "Why are you wasting my time?"
Yeah.
you know. But now I'm so. Anyways, without
And doing this, like you're opening yourself up to new worlds every day.
oh yeah,
So, and who knows
100%.
what that leads to too. So I think we get in our lane and we just go, and and I think if I hadn't, become friends with Tim, and who knows if I would have let this into my lane. I didn't start doing this till I was 43. So, I was struggling financially for so many
Yeah,
years.
of course.
And to start a new career at 43 is pretty stressful. I missed a lot of my kids' really important sporting events and stuff like that, and I had to kind of go all in. But I was kind of happy last year was a little more
a little
manageable.
slower, yeah.
Yeah.
It was actually my goal the previous year was to spend more time with my family. My son's going to college next year,
Yes.
and my husband's done a great job, but I have missed a lot. I've missed a lot because
Yeah.
it's been busy.
I bet, and I jokingly say, because when I got into real estate straight out of college, I was from the Bay Area. I knew more people down there. So because of that is the reason why I went over to the lending side. Unbeknownst to what I would feel later on with the kids and everything like that, you guys' prime time is after business hours and on weekends. So, I luckily got into that side of it to where usually I'm still available and picking up the phone for clients on the side of a baseball or
Yeah.
softball field. So that part has worked out for me. But, one of the things, and kind of referring back to, we're opening up different, paths here, the stories and listening to you and your trip to where you've reached at this time, success does leave clues, and I love hearing the portions of it. That was one of the biggest things I was excited to speak with you about in general here, because you have been just so successful at every step of the way. Yes, money at different times, so be it, but that does not diminish as much as you've accomplished while doing all of your art up to this point, and then just an absolute monster when it comes to the real estate side. I'm always loving to hear you're saying that you missed out on a lot of the important games for the kids, but juggling it all at the home, the work, the art, just tell me a little bit about that. I really love to hear, because it's always a struggle, right? Give me a little bit more about how you've been able to be so successful at that.
I married a really good partner.
I love it. Then I agree with that.
We just had our 20th wedding anniversary.
Congratulations.
And we're still best friends, and we like get irritated with each other and stuff all the time. He's a super creative person, and he's put that aside too. He just self-published a book that he
Wow.
just shared basically with all his friends. If you guys ever want to read it, it's
Wow.
awesome. It's about his summer between senior year and college, living on Cape Cod. So it's like it's a dude's story, and it is so funny. And,
Wow.
like,
Is it, so this is all
raunchy.
real stuff.
It's it's
This
real
is
stuff,
great.
but it's he changed the names and all this stuff. So he wrote this book for his friends. Anyway, so he's getting back into creative stuff too. But he gave up a lot for me when I was an artist.
Of course, yeah.
He was working his ass off, and we were pinching pennies so that I could, be like, hey, I'm gonna make a bunch of art and ship it to Dallas for $7,000, and maybe I'll sell something. And he totally believed in me, and so now that it's kind of shifted, and it was my opportunity to financially support the family. We're a team, and we're like, well, that's the right decision.
Amazing.
As long as the kids have somebody there, and it's not like I missed everything. I just,
Of course
and
not.
some stuff I was kind of like, I don't have to go to swim meet, but swim meets are rough.
I know.
But we've got to take our family to Italy this year.
Amazing.
My kids I'm going to be able to pay for college, I think, maybe. So it's a good trade off. It's a nice trade off for us. He has the space that he needs. He has an office now, whereas he was always like writing on the table, and so I think you make those sacrifices to miss out on those things,
Yes.
but you end up getting rewards from it later. So, but yeah, it's our house is a super creative household.
Yeah.
We have one room. I don't think you haven't been to our house yet,
No.
Chris, have you?
It's in East Sacramento Park.
It is Sierra Oaks, actually.
Sierra Oaks. Okay.
Yes. So during COVID, like our house got really small, and we lived by McKinley Park, and the kids were getting bigger, and we really wanted a pool, and my husband is a general contractor and always had like a one-car garage, and so we bought this house, he fixed it up, like remodeled the whole thing, and so we flipped it while we lived in it, which is so fun. And then off market, we found this house, and I always said I want a U-shaped ranch with a pool. And I was showing some clients property, and they said, hey, our friends have this, have the contractor lockbox code to this house across from them. It's been vacant for 2 years. Will you go see it with us? We're thinking about it. So I was like, sure. And in my head, I'm like, well, if they buy it, I'm not going to get any commission. And, but I totally love them. And if it was a great
course.
house, I was, So they're like, what do you think? I'm like, oh my God, this house is amazing. Like, I loved it. It was all totally original, 1971, U-shaped ranch with a pool on 1/3 of an acre, like right off of University and American River Drive. So it's just dipping your pinky toe into Sierra Oaks. You're not driving super far. And so they're like, well, we'll think about it. So, and it's funky. Like, one room is about this big. It's got orange carpet, beautiful burnt orange carpet, rock fireplace.
Oh, yeah.
Grass wallpaper. It's got one of those cool like a wet bar. That's all wood. It's super funky. We haven't touched it. It's our music room,
That's
and we put a disco
incredible.
ball up, and now like all the kids come to our house and sing karaoke. That's where our friends come, and they're always like, when do we get to sing? Everyone give people a couple drinks.
That's so great.
And a microphone and a good amp, and then and our kids have their Ben had his band practice over there Sunday morning. There's guys singing Radiohead in there. It was so cool. I loved it. I'm doing the dishes, singing along to Weezer and all the songs they're playing, which is so cool. So how we got that was my clients. I called them the next day, and they're like, "Yeah, it's too much work for us." And I'm like, "Can I have the number, please?" And we bought it the next day. So
my
off market
goodness.
when rates were at like 2.8.
Oh.
We'll never move. That's our forever house.
What a great story for so many reasons. I love that.
Hopefully you can have us over so we can see this bar, the orange carpet.
It doesn't disappoint.
Man.
Todd's office has wallpaper. It's like black and white, and it has little drawings of naked ladies on swings with like German writing on it. It's so weird. So we've kept some things in the house that are totally original. It's like you were saying with your grandpa. Like, they remind you of, my grandpa owned a bar on Broadway. It was called the Trio Club. And, like, I still have, little things from there, like framed pictures and things that I remember, but there's something about that time that reminds me of like my grandpa's bar.
Yeah.
And just how cool the 70s were.
Yeah.
Like, just so laid back and groovy and weird. And so that house was pretty original. We've changed a lot of it, but not the floor plan or anything like that. And but that room it's a time capsule. I don't think
That is awesome.
we will ever change it. It's really cool.
So has your relationship with art changed now that you aren't necessarily having to make art to survive? And now is it more of like, do you get this burning fire? Like, I want to work on a new art piece. Like, what does that look like?
It's interesting because I'm kind of in this space right now where I'm ready to do something new. And in order to get to that space to do something new, you have to experiment a lot. And I feel like I just need a concentration of time to do that. So you start doing, nature is always the thing that inspires me. So I just start collecting pods, and I walk on the river every day, and I start collecting like interesting things or taking pictures of things that will sort of inspire whatever the next marks I'm going to make are. A couple years back, I would get these cool, you know how birch trees have those really spindly, tiny little branches, and they sort of fall into the street. So I started making these kind of cool sculptures with them, and then I would hang them in my studio, not to sell or anything like that, just because they started making these cool shadows on the walls. So then I started tracing the shadows and then layering those, and they didn't really turn out to be anything, but that sort of experimenting where you're allowing nature to kind of come into your space and you could do something with it, and then it becomes something else. I'm kind of ready for that next thing to click in my head a little bit. It hasn't, but I haven't really given myself the space to do that. So I'm just kind of experimenting with being really loose and going back to paper. And maybe my goal this year is to make some paintings that don't have resin on them. See if because resin allows your paintings to look really sleek and clean and good. Under the surface, it flattens everything so much that it makes it look like glass.
Yep.
But under the surface of that, it looks like shit. So it's kind of cheating a little bit.
I'm wondering if she can get some unique, some inspiration from one of our favorite wine places.
100%.
Would you like to talk to her about?
Yeah, so Rene has a gift for you. And you've probably heard of this winery. Have you heard of Donham?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
From you.
okay.
So I'm going to give this to you and
So
explain the
yes.
art that goes along with this place.
So it's funny because
That's
Kendra can actually explain it better than I can now, but my good friend introduced me to this winery. I've been a member here. Rene and I now split a membership. But
has Ai Weiwei's.
the amount of artwork on this property, they said there's $300 million worth of artwork on the property.
Wow.
I think we should go together and do
wanna
some
go.
research.
We should. So the way it works is they only do, I think, they do really, really limited reservations because when you go there, it turns out to be like a 2 to 3 hour experience because you walk the grounds. There are all these incredibly big statues.
In the vineyards, in the middle of the vineyard.
It's wild. There's like a maze. One of the most recent art pieces of art that they brought there is like this huge dome that has all of these bright colors, and you walk through it, and your jaw is dropped. And they also happen to make, not just saying this, but my favorite wine. I don't know if it is your favorite wine too, but we're big Pinot fans, and they specialize. All they make are Pinots and Chardonnays. And when we go there, being members, we'll have access to some of their library stuff. But I took Kendra there, and she fell in love with it. I believe the husband, I think, is from Denmark, and he married. I hope I don't mess this up, but I believe he married I think she's Japanese. Okay. But anyways, they're both infatuated with art, so they're constantly adding stuff to their collection. So
Oh,
Just
I
thought
really
it would
wanna
be
go.
fitting that you got one of the bottles from there.
Thank
So.
you. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course.
I'd love to bring Todd next time too. 'Cause
Yes,
he didn't get to come
yes.
with us last time, and you guys would get a kick out of him.
Oh,
Let's
that
do
would
it.
be great. I'm super excited for that and get all 6 of us down there. That would be amazing. So
back to your art real quick, because didn't want to blink it, but you still do have some of your pieces at the Crocker.
I do. They have a piece in the permanent collection. I mean, to come back to your hometown, and then they come to the gallery I was showing at, which was JJ Gallery. They were my Sacramento gallery. They gave me my first shot here, and to have them acquire a piece was pretty special.
That's awesome.
It was really great. It just made me feel like, it's your hometown.
It's serious.
And they had just redone the museum. Actually, I think they acquired it before they finished the museum. But, to see it in there, have your family go see it in there, take your kids when they were little, to go in and be like,
It's iconic.
oh, here's this painting, and then there's your mom.
yes.
So they do revolve the work, and it has not been up for a couple years. It should be up soon, I hope. Every time I go to an event at the Crocker, I'm like, so I'm a supporter, So, so hopefully it'll go back up. But that was pretty special to me, and it's been nice too. I've had some pieces go in, even like UC Davis Med Center. Law offices and things like that. So it's nice to have your work in public spaces and for people to see them on a regular basis, and or to go to. It's really cool once in a while to go to show a house, and all of a sudden you're like, one of my pieces is in here, and
That
I don't
is
know who bought it.
incredible.
Come on now.
So
That's incredible.
That happened last year, and it was
Really?
really cool. Yeah.
Can you
is
imagine,
amazing.
like touring a house and you see like a framed Rene Jacques jersey, you know what I'm saying? Or like some basketball shorts, because when he played college basketball, this is when the baggy shorts were still a thing.
You're putting it at it was way lower.
Oh, it was
than
lower than that?
I'm joking.
Where'd you play basketball?
So I'm originally from the Bay Area. Went to high school at St. Joseph in Alameda, the same high school that Jason Kidd went to, and then I came up and played at Sac State. So
Cool.
I came up in Sac State in '98, and I've been here ever since. So.
Nice.
But Ray Young, who we had in here recently, who is a legend, they played on the same team together. Made it clear he was like, Rene was so damn good. See, Rene should have waited to sign a scholarship because he could have had some D1s. He's very
it was
humble.
D1, so I still went D1. But
Is Arizona considered D1?
Yes, it is.
So what he said was some bigger name.
Bigger
college.
names.
That's all
bigger
he said.
names for sure.
But then you wouldn't be where you're at now.
That's right. That's
Yep.
right. I really love that I get to raise my kids here in Sacramento. I do. I'm with you, man. A lot of people don't appreciate all that Sacramento has to give. I can still go back and see all of my friends down that way. My grandmother is 102 years old, still in Oakland.
Wow.
So I go down there to see her. But I did get my mom to move up this way 5-6 years ago. So she's really close. Get to be with the kids and everything like that. So I love it up here.
It's funny because my husband has friends from all over the
Yeah.
country. Last year was his 50th birthday, and so we had people from like 8 states come, and nobody had really ever been here.
Yeah.
And they didn't really know what to expect. And it was April 12th. And guys from back east, like, there's still snow on the ground.
Frozen,
They still
yeah.
got 2 months of winter. And, we were like out drinking beer by the pool
Yeah.
and, touring around. We took them down to the Delta and stuff like that. And I was so proud and so was Todd, to like show them where we live.
Yeah.
Because there's not like a iconic thing besides
Nobody
maybe the Tower Bridge.
vacations
Like,
here,
yeah,
right? Like they don't
no.
come out here to visit. You have to know
Yeah.
somebody here.
Yeah, we've got like this little janky little river boat
Uh-huh.
that we keep down in the marina, and we got that during COVID too, because we were like, what are we gonna do? So we like got a Craigslist boat,
Yeah.
and we'd love it. It's nothing fancy, but going out on the river in the evening,
Yes.
it is so. We take friends from out of town out there, and they're like, there's nobody out there. First of all, after dark, the sun's going down, sky's purple. all you see is a silhouette of the trees on the water. And it's just like, it's so peaceful and beautiful, and you've got your stereo and all
Oh,
these,
it's the best.
beautiful houses, which reminds me of earlier when I said there was 2 regrets in my life, and they were,
Yeah, it was the second one. We didn't get to that.
the second one was, there was this really beautiful original like 60s ranch that Tim and I had as a listing last year that was incredible, and I really grew to love the owner. She and her wife had lived there for I think 20 years, and her wife had passed away, and she was going back to live with family in Canada. And as we were prepping the house, like, I just got to know this woman. I really loved her. She was wonderful. Still do. And she, we would like sit and drink wine on her deck overlooking her dock. And one day I just said, I've never done this before, but would you ever consider selling your house to me? And because I thought, even though I'm not going to move there right now, like maybe my brother would go in on it. And, I just really fell in love with this house. And I brought my brother out there and his wife, and she was like, absolutely, she was going to give me this incredible price. And we just couldn't financially do it on our own. And but every time we drive by that house, it's like a dagger. It's a dagger in my heart, and it sold for much more than I was going to pay for it.
Oh, so you guys met because she wanted to sell it.
Yeah,
And
we
you were just
listed it.
talking to her if maybe potentially just having her sell
We
it.
just kept hanging out. Like,
Yeah.
I'd go over there for something, and she'd be like, hey, let's open a bottle of wine. And we just got to know each other, and then we sort of became friends.
Yeah.
And then I fell in love with the house. And,
Oh,
and
man.
then this guy bought it, and then he ended up relisting it and selling it for a lot more. So every time I go by it, it's like, it hurts. Someday I would love to have a house out there. Like,
Yeah.
if to like, as going into retirement or something, I think that's such a special spot. And
Yeah.
now that Natomas is built out, like, you're really not that far out
No,
there.
not at all.
You're like, oh, it's a mile to the grocery store,
Yeah.
whereas you feel like you're so far away from everything. So
Oh,
yeah,
We're going to end on this. So, in no particular order, but since you are an artist and you love and appreciate good art, I'm just curious, your top 3 artists in no particular order in the world.
well, I gave you guys that catalog earlier, and it's hard. But when I was learning about art and getting into abstract art, there's one artist in there, Larry Pittman. He's from LA, and he's kind of a mix of. Anyways, Larry Pittman, he was one of them, and then I got to be in a show with him. Yoyo Kasama, I don't know how to say it. She's got shows all over right now. There's one she's the polka dot lady, the Japanese polka dot lady, where she might even be who you're describing. She does structures right now at the MoMA in San Francisco. It's like talk about a psychedelic experience. It's like
Really?
mirrors and polka dots. Have you guys seen that?
No, but
she's
I wonder if she's got one
amazing.
of her pieces at Dunham.
She's really huge right now.
Okay.
She's old. She's older. She's been around for a long time. And
I think they have a piece of hers. It's like this big spider that's made out of metal. But
no, that's not her. That's a different woman. I'll think Ava Hess. I think. I
okay.
think that's Ava.
We
Hess
are
piece.
gonna go. Todd's gonna go. We're gonna go to Dunham. We're
Yeah.
gonna make a day. We'll get a driver.
Yep.
It'll be amazing.
Wayne
Okay.
Thiebaud. I have to put Wayne Thiebaud in there.
Okay.
Wayne Thiebaud. His work looks like it's very simple. You guys know who Wayne is. He died recently. He's the most famous artist that ever came out of Sacramento. Cakes.
Got it.
And he and did the San Francisco streets that are like
yes.
so
Yep.
he like his work looks like it's really simple, but he's one of those people, if you're a painter and you all the little subtleties in it, like look, he would just do like a counter with all these different cakes and foods. He was like a magical painter, and he just died. I think he died last year. I got to meet him once. I got to meet him twice. Actually, he put on a little show at Sutter Lawn, and I got to be in that. But the first time I met him, I touched his hand, and it was like it's like if you're meeting your
Starstruck.
favorite
Yeah.
athlete.
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt like a tingling through my body,
Oh
and I
my
got all red,
goodness.
and I just started crying.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was
Wow,
so cool.
that's special.
And he
That's
was
incredible.
like, I think he was 100. I think he was 100 or 101 when he died. So
Wow.
he lived in Land Park in like a really just total modest house, and his paintings are worth millions and millions and millions. So, anyways,
That's
it.
great. That's a great list.
That's a good story.
So let's switch over to food. You've been around the country. You've lived many places, and I would love to get your top 3 places to eat. It can be in Sacramento. It could be other places. Can I dig into that side of it?
Oh man, that is really hard. Well, I mean, Crew just is
All right. I love it. Big fan. Yes.
like
Yes.
Crew's wonderful. Here,
Mm-hmm.
oh gosh, oh.
Love putting people on the spot.
And if you're stumped, if you're stumped,
I'm
you
really
can
stumped.
just do your top 3 in Sacramento,
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the Sacramento greater area.
You know, I love Matone or Matone right now too. So Matone used to be called Espanol,
I have no.
across from Cordy Brothers.
I have not been. Have you been?
I haven't been. No,
So-
I know exactly where you're talking about. I just haven't
there
been.
was a little controversy because when Biba closed, some of her chefs and
Got
her
it.
staff and her management opened that up because Biba passed
Yeah.
away, and nobody in her family wanted to keep that going. My understanding was they took some of her recipes over there, which are published, and the family wasn't very happy about it, and there was a bit of a controversy. However, if you've ever had Viva's lasagna,
Oh, the green.
yes,
Yes.
it's like 20 layers this thin. They serve it, and it's exactly the recipe, and it's so good.
remember that.
And if you like martinis, they have like sit in the bar. I like the bar the best. The best,
Yes.
yeah. And they have blue cheese martini,
Oh,
martinis, blue cheese olive martinis, and I don't know. It's not.
all right.
I'm.
I want to
drawing a blank.
plug one real quick, just because it's been one of our favorite restaurants, Kendra and I feel like a lot of people haven't made their way out there because of where it's at. But if you haven't been to Josephine's in Auburn,
No.
please put that on your list. It is the most quaint. They have they serve their dishes on this like old china. It's incredible. It's a French restaurant. They do
I love the
caviar service and oysters, and they have like a really good wine champagne list. But the food is just incredible. So put that on your radar.
Okay, that sounds awesome. I mean, I love Ella too. When you said oysters, that's great. Had you guys ever been to a place? It's gone now, but it's called Juicy's. Did you guys ever hear of Juicy's?
no.
Never heard of it.
It's down in Walnut Grove. It was
No.
really wonderful. It burnt down.
Oh
last year.
no.
Yeah,
Did you hear what happened in Nick's Cove?
I did.
So
I
sad.
did.
Iconic in Tamales Bay caught fire, and this was like 4 days after Marcus was out there.
Oh no.
Marcus was out there. Our friend who co-owner of Brasswood, he was taking pictures and they were drinking and
Oh, I'm glad you got to enjoy
yeah,
it.
got to enjoy it 3 to 4 days after. Wild.
Yeah.
Top 3 in no order: musical artists, bands, singers.
Oh my gosh.
you name it.
Oh, that's impossible.
It is impossible.
That is absolutely impossible.
Top 3.
I mean, you'd have to categorize it.
Most listened to, go to.
My family, we had tickets. I got sick to go see LCD Sound System. I don't know if you guys know
Oh
them,
my
but
gosh.
the bass player is actually from River Park.
Oh wow.
Tyler Pope, and they're like a huge. It's electronic music, but played live, and it's like the concerts are like nothing you've ever been to. But then I could be like, I love Joni Mitchell, and I love Ice Cube, and I love like. It just depends on what you're doing.
Okay.
You know.
Fair
Oh,
enough.
love that answer
I'll-
because that's why
I know.
she's the
I
best.
know.
Like, I love Neil Diamond. Like I really like
I love it.
music is everything in my family, and like if we have a party, it's like, okay, who's going to make the playlist
Yeah.
tonight? It becomes an important thing. Like when you go to a party and they're not playing music or a restaurant or anything, it's just like, oh, I got to get out of here.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
There's many different reasons why you are awesome, but that answer in
the
itself,
best.
that's why we mess with Kim, is because she is the shit.
Oh, you guys are sweet.
And by the way, on the LCD sound system, so I'm super good friends with Peter Jilg. He's like one of my closest friends. He's an escrow officer. I don't know if that name rings a bell. All right, now that I've put it out there in the universe, you'll probably do a deal with him. He works at First American. He's worked at First American for like 20 years, but their favorite band, him and his partner, is LCD Sound System. They see them every time they come.
Yeah.
So they came to Bill Graham recently, right?
Yeah, they were just there on the 30th and 31st.
Yep, and Clay, who owns Canon, was there too, and both of them were like, it was the most incredible show ever. So.
It's just really happy, fun. You can't sit still music, and really creative. And they've been around for a really long time. They're started in New York City, and we're just huge in New York City. And
They were.
they're
I saw them
awesome.
on Saturday Night Live a couple years ago. I forget, but yeah, they're on the list. Last question, then we'll wrap up. If you can have dinner with anyone born dead or alive, who would that be? It's a good question that you don't get asked normally.
Well, I mean, the first name that came to my head was Pablo Picasso, but then I was like, oh, the guy's a dick.
Yeah.
He's really sexist. Gosh.
Did you see any of his? Have you been to Spain?
Yes. Yeah. Incredible artist. And to do something that nobody had ever done before.
I was blown away. I don't go to a lot of art galleries, exhibits, but we went to the Pablo Picasso, and it was just the story alone and seeing all the art. It was fascinating.
I think Barack Obama would be pretty cool.
Wow.
And
That's a
Michelle.
great
I'd have
one.
to say, and Michelle. They just seem really down to earth. They've had to endure a lot of shit.
Yep.
And I hope that they still make an imprint on our country. And I just think that they just seem like they would be a friend of mine if we knew each other, you know? So
That's a great answer.
I guess that's who it would be.
We've had some good ones.
Pablo Picasso or Barack Obama? I don't know.
Well, we thank you so much. And yes, we did have a joint session with Angelina Mondavi, but you were the first individual woman, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you guys.
For having time to come in here and just share your incredible story.
I'm glad that you brought that back up because I wanted to say this. So I have a really good friend named Ashley Hurst. So Ashley, if you're listening to this, she was the one that was responsible for me getting involved with Leah Tata Floyd Elementary, which was next to the mill. And I still mentor a lot of kids that are now grown up. And I've spent a lot of time there and I've done a lot of work over there. And a lot of it was because of Ashley. And so Ashley is one to speak her mind. And I think after like our 6th or 7th episode, she sent me a message and she's like, is there a reason that we're not seeing any powerful women on your podcast? And after she said that, I got kind of pissed off and I'm like, all right. And you're no joke, your name was, we got to get somebody from our own area, from Sacramento. And we're very glad that you were the first badass woman, episode 11 on our podcast.
I'm super honored, and thanks for being interested. And I hope I didn't babble on too long. And
You were great.
You're
I
the
was
best.
a little intimidated by some of your guests before, but it's all right.
We appreciate
Thank
you.
you,
Thank you so
Kim.
much.
Thanks, you
We're
guys.
out.